She's so fine. Hell of a hell of a blows my mind. Hell of a hell of a lights my day.
What's good, guys? Today is Saturday, December the 31st, 2022, the very last day of the year. Happy New Year's Eve to everybody out there. It is roughly 11 o'clock a.m. Central Time when I'm starting this video. And, of course, this video is going to be regarding the Shanquella Robinson case because it is what it is, guys. I wanted to do a more detailed look at this medical timeline because there's some stuff that needs some explaining to me. And for those that are not aware, most of you aren't aware, I worked for an ambulance billing company. Was a supervisor there for roughly 6 years. And so I am very familiar with going out and training EMS workers on how to fill out their paperwork. I'm familiar with protocols in regards to meds being pushed, CPR, EKG rhythms. I'm very familiar with that stuff. So let's get into this medical timeline. And this may take me 2 videos to do, but hey, it is what it is. Let's take a look at this. Now, this article that I'm going to be reading from is coming from The Defender. For those that aren't aware of what The Defender is, it is the leading and most trusted source of black news and information in the greater Houston, Texas area. It was founded in 1930. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on it for those that had never used it as a source. This article came out on the 22nd of November, and it was wrote by Rashonda Tate. New details: what really happened to Shanquella Robinson? Now, I'm not concerned with the date of the article, but rather the information. Let's get on into it. It says new information is coming to light in a case that has garnered attention nationwide. Let's go ahead and change that. This is an international case now. People all over the world are looking at this case. A police report says Shanquella Robinson was alive when medical help first arrived at the villa, where she was staying with this group of people that she traveled with to Cabo, Mexico. A Charlotte newspaper obtained the report, which differs from details previously received from 25-year-old Shanquella Robinson's death certificate that said she died within 15 minutes of being injured. Instead, the police report excerpt shows a doctor from a local hospital was with Shanquella Robinson and others in that house, in that villa, for close to 3 hours before she was pronounced dead. Now, the reason I'm using this Defender article is because I like the way the timeline is set up. So this is the October the 29th timeline. All right. 2:13 p.m. Winter Donovan, one of the 6 snakes that traveled with Shanquella Robinson, called for medical help at Villa Linda 32, which is a property run by company Cabo Villas. So 2:13, Winter Donovan calls for medical help. 3:13, exactly 1 hour later, to the minute, Dr. Carolina Beatriz Ornelas Gutierrez from a local hospital, specifically the American Medical Center, arrived to treat Shanquella Robinson. The doctor says she was told, doesn't say who told her, that Shanquella had, quote, drunk a lot of alcohol. Now that is specific. It is a quote verbatim what is on that report. And needed to, quote, be given an IV. So when the doctor arrived, one of the Cabo 6 says to her that Shanquella had drunk a lot of alcohol and that she needed to be given an IV. These people are telling a medical professional, a doctor, what to do to the patient. That's strange to me. Dr. Gutierrez says that Shanquella had stable vital signs, but was dehydrated, unable to communicate verbally, and appeared to be inebriated. Well, that don't sound right to me. So Dr. Gutierrez said Shanquella Robinson had stable vital signs. I'm not buying it, because the vital signs, the typical vital signs, the body temperature, pulse rate, respiratory rate, and blood pressure. You're telling me that this doctor said that they were stable on Shanquella Robinson at 3:13 p.m.? And that she was unable to communicate verbally, yet appeared to be inebriated. Well, I'm sorry, I'm not buying that. It goes on. The report said that Dr. Gutierrez believed that Shanquella needed to be transferred to a hospital, but her friends insisted that she be treated in the villa. Well, here's what I think. Now, this is just my personal opinion. You're damn right they wanted her to be treated in that villa, because if she went to the emergency room, there would be some splaining to do there. Like, why is this girl coming in here with a busted lip, unable to walk, a busted blood vessel in her eye, a knot on her head? Somebody would have to do some explaining about that. I find it very odd that these 6 people who have very minimal medical background. A CNA is about as low as you can go as far as a medical degree, of any type of medical degree. And they're telling this doctor, number one, that they want her treated in the villa. That's not their call. Also telling the doctor how to treat the patient. Telling her that she needs an IV. Shanquella needs an IV. According to who? But then we get into this call that they made to someone back in the States. That's going to probably be in another whole separate video. Let's continue. Now, the next time listed on this is 4:13. But if we remember what Nazir Wiggins claims, he says he arrived at 3:26 p.m. in that villa. And he also said he was there for a full hour before this nurse arrived. This quote-unquote nurse. Anywho, 4:13 p.m., Shanquella begins having a seizure. The convulsions from this seizure lasted less than a minute, but there was sphincter relaxation in that process, okay? Now, exactly 1 minute later, Dr. Gutierrez requests that the friends take Shanquella to the hospital. Does that mean, I'm having a problem with that statement. Does that mean that Dr. Gutierrez said, hey guys, you personally need to take her to the hospital? Or does that mean she says, you guys, we got to get her to the hospital? There's my issue with that. Obviously, the Monster Squad decline, and they insist on her being treated at the villa. Again, why? Because somebody is going to be like, what the hell happened to this woman? What happened? That's why they are insisting that she be treated at the villa. Now, 30 minutes later, Winter Essence Donovan calls 911 for an ambulance while the doctor administers CPR. So she told him 30 minutes beforehand, look, we got to get her to the hospital. They say, hell, what does she know? She's a doctor. No, we want her treated here. Treat her here. We're running the show here. Treat her here. Yet 30 minutes later, Winter is calling 911 for an ambulance. And the doctor is giving CPR. At 5:25 p.m., the police arrive. 5 minutes later, the paramedics arrive. And here's where I got another problem. These paramedics administer 14 rounds of CPR. No problem there. 5 doses of adrenaline. Something ain't sounding right there. And I'm going to tell you why. Now let me finish reading. And 6 discharges, AED shocks, without success. Now, these 5 doses of adrenaline, what they're speaking of is epinephrine. And that usually a medic or an EMT will shorten that to just plain epi. Epi is usually administered 1 dose every 3 to 5 minutes. 1 milligram of epi in an IV push every 3 to 5 minutes. Now, let me go ahead and stop you before you come on here and say, oh, no. Listen, there are different protocols for different ambulance companies. I know that personally, okay? Because I was the supervisor for 26 ambulance billing companies, okay? Now, here's the other thing. This 6 discharges without success of the AED. Now look at the time here. From 5:30 to 5:47, when Shanquella Robinson was declared dead. That is 17 minutes. So if an epidose is given 1 dose every 3 to 5 minutes, and they gave 5 doses, how did they do that? How did they do that? There's not enough time. There is not enough time. Here's where I think the problem comes in. I think that this is just my opinion, like I said. I think the Cabo Six were really trying to work this doctor. After all, she was in there for a good little minute. But that doctor had enough sense to know that they weren't going to be reading that report. And so she could write what she needed to write to cover her own ass in that report. And that the Cabo Six couldn't see what she was writing. And so, little did they know, she was throwing them under the bus. And here they probably thought she was going along with their little scheme. But she was throwing them under the bus in that report. The whole time. Saying they didn't want her transferred. They didn't want this. They are the ones that called for this. They stopped her from doing this. So, just something to think about, guys. And, I've got a lot more to say on this subject right here. But this video is getting a little bit long. And so, I'm going to end it here. But I will be back with more on this medical timeline. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Let's push on into the new year. Hoping and praying and demanding for justice for Shanquella Robinson. Thanks, guys. Everybody have a happy new year.